Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
It's Waffle Box time.
I don't even know what that means.
No one knows what it means, but it's provocative.
No, it's not. It
Gets the people going.
You know what old Jack Burton always says at a time like this?
My crotch is itchy.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. Now don't call me Shirley.
What would you do if you had $1 million?
2 chicks at the same time, man.
Just thank the Lord she didn't live to see her son as a mermaid.
You killed a hooker!
Call girl!
No,
she was
Cyril, when they're dead, they're just hookers.
This time we are sure she's a woman, right?
Why do you want to listen to the TV with the stereo on?
Because I like to party.
Let's do this!
Ooh. Welcome to Waffle Box, the podcast where we talk about anything, everything, and nothing, all at the same time. Coming up on episode 18, we venture into the dark side of the ring. We defend Marvel, and also we talk about Gerard Butler's latest venture into the big screen. My name is Mike Bish, and I am joined, as always, by the Honorable Kush Hayes. Kush, how you doing, buddy?
What's good, y'all? Kush Hayes here, coming to you in his proud Niner apparel. The 49ers are now undefeated at 2-0. A whole 2-0. That means that's good. That determines the whole season, from what I understand, Mike.
From what I gather, the more times you win, the better. I wouldn't know because I'm a Giants fan. So I've yet to taste the sweet victory this year. But yeah,
speaking of the Giants, the San Francisco Giants have clinched the playoffs. They are still the best team in all of Major League Baseball.
Congrats!
And I can't wait to see what happens when October comes around the corner.
So you're basically, what you're saying is wake me up when September ends.
Yeah.
Ooh. Green Day reference, nice and early. In the
Green Day Bay Area reference. Good job, Michael. You're doing
welcome.
Well this week,
I know. Well, it's a fine oiled machine now. Episode 18. We're on it. What have you been up to this past week? Any exciting adventures?
No exciting adventures. Took it easy. Took it mellow as I normally do. Did get a double feature in this Thursday. Saw the aforementioned Cop Shop that we will be talking about later tonight. But I also saw the Eyes of Tammy Faye, which is a movie about
Tammy Faye's eyes
of televangelist Jim Baker and all the nonsense they went through during their 30-year run. And I think it might be the best movie of the year right now.
Do love a good televangelist story. They're always fun.
It is a fun story, man. It's and they have good chemistry, those two. And we're not squeezing in an extra review, but I absolutely love The Eyes of Tammy Faye, and I can't wait to talk about Cop Shop also later tonight. Spoiler alert, I liked it.
Spoiler alert. This week, okay. So I have a little, before we dive into the main features of our discussions this evening, I have to get something off my chest.
Mm-hmm.
I know normally I'm this what's the phrase? Happy go lucky. There we go. But yeah, okay. So not to get too serious, but obviously there is this thing that the kids are talking about on the streets called COVID. Now, at this point, I'm double dose. I don't really care about whatever. I've given up caring about what other people do now. If you want to wear a mask, wear a mask. If you don't. I personally still like to wear a mask, especially when I go to grocery stores and things like that.
I appreciate that, player.
Yeah. But what annoys me more, because now, hey, there is no mask mandate in New Jersey. If you don't have to wear a mask, you don't. So I'm not going to get mad. I'm not going to walk through Trader Joe's going, oh, they're not wearing a mask. But what does really annoy me is the people that wear a mask but keep their nose uncovered.
Okay.
It's like, either wear it or fucking don't. Like, that is the most pointless thing. Like, do they even know? Because it's not even like, because before, when there was a mask mandate, you could kind of say, okay, maybe those people, that's kind of their statement, like, yeah, I'll wear your mask, but I'm not going to wear it properly. But at this point, you don't have to wear a mask. So if you are going to wear it, why aren't you wearing it properly? But literally walking around the grocery, like, that is basically the the equivalent of walking around wearing underwear but having your dick hang out. It's like, what is the point of wearing them?
That can be a problem. Well, most of those times when your dick is hanging out, it just slips out the leg, man. It happens to the best of us. I'm not proud of it, and as soon as I realize it, I always adjust myself. However, I totally get what you're saying with your complaint about the mask. The few times, and they have been few, but they have been there. The few times that I've seen that happen, it's usually just someone's mask has been worn a little too many times. The elastic's a little stretched, and it just slips down a little bit. Sometimes they're quick to correct it. Most times they don't even notice it. But I hear what you're saying. So before we had our second mask mandate in San Francisco, because for about 6 weeks, they were like, don't matter where you go, you don't have to wear a mask. Please do, but you don't have to. And most folks didn't. But it still got confusing. So I was at the store. Most people are wearing their mask, but there was this one woman who was just like, she's fully aware that she's not wearing a mask. She's not trying to be defiant, and she seems quite embarrassed at the same time. But my annoyance came from, it's like, you know what? Just don't wear. Just stop doing that. You're embarrassing me. Like maybe you know something I don't know. We're not trying to like ask where your mindset is, but knock that shit off, okay?
Maybe she farted.
Maybe she farted. Well, she didn't have a mask if she farted still.
See, that's another reason why to wear a mask.
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously now, but because people need to realize, obviously masks were a thing before February 2020. Like that was a thing. So there are multiple reasons to wear a mask now, because now I've realized, obviously after having to wear a mask for so long and also stay inside for a long time, I pretty much haven't got sick at all. I haven't even had a cold. I haven't had a flu. And I'm kind of digging this. So, if I'm still going to wear a mask, not just because I'm worried about necessarily catching COVID off anyone, but I don't want anyone's germs. I don't want anyone's coughing over, It's quite nice not to be sick. Just in general, I'm a fan of it.
Mm-hmm.
So
I can dig that.
There you go.
And even with even during those illustrious 6 weeks where the city and the state said we didn't have to wear a mask, there were some shops that still went like, no, it's going to be our company policy that you continue to wear a mask during this thing. And if you don't want to do that, you can't come in. And so I would still wear my mask just in case I just want to get a cup of coffee. I don't want any trouble, and I don't want to hang out. So I'll wear my mask for 3 minutes. I'll get my cup of coffee, and I'll bounce. It's not a big deal.
Exactly. It's not. The only time it's ever been a pain in the ass was when I was flying to Aruba, and I had to wear the mask for like 5 hours or so. And it's after my ears were starting to really ache. But whatever. It is what it is. But
I was in a Starbucks during one of my gigs last month. And a mother and daughter came in. The daughter doesn't have her mask for whatever reason. Mom's masked up. The daughter's not. Someone behind the camera is like, hey, mask policy, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, I'm sorry, I don't know what happened to my mask. And they just went into the counter and they just gave her one and she just put it on and it wasn't a problem. Like, so I gotta think if this is a regional thing. But yeah,
Oh, I love
figure it
that
out,
shit,
folks. We're almost there. I heard California is actually the lowest COVID state in the nation. So that's
congratulations.
Nice. Thank you.
I know you've worked hard for that.
We have so hard that the mayor of San Francisco went out to a club over the weekend to celebrate. Listen,
got COVID.
Tony do a show at a local club in San Francisco, and I'm like, yeah, that's gonna be a good time. She was apparently photographed for a long time without a mask during this event, and it's caused quite a kerfuffle out here in the city of San Francisco.
City girl.
I don't know. That's not the point of the show. Just putting on a little timestamp on there.
Yeah. City. Okay. Well, that's my venting. If you want to wear a mask, wear a mask. If you don't. But if you are going to wear it properly. This is my wrap up there of that.
Much like people who sag, pull your pants up or don't wear them at all. Wear a belt.
Just freeball it.
Yeah.
If you're not going to wear them properly. Moving on to another thing that's kind of annoyed me, but obviously whatever. It's Denis Villeneuve, director of Dune. Am I pronouncing that? Is it Dune or June?
I think it's just called Dune.
Dune.
I'm just calling it Dune, and phonetically it'd be Doone.
So he has come out with a very slightly, it's not that big of a deal, but slightly controversial comment about the Marvel movies. And as you read the article, it's funny enough, he has his new movie coming on HBO Max coming out soon. So shock. He thought he would try to say something controversial to get himself attention, so people will find out that he's got a new movie out. We can very clearly see his intentions here.
No, what's happening is he's already being interviewed about the movie, and someone asked him a loaded question, and it's not one of the smartest answers ever given, despite how much I might agree with him. But the problem with his answer is this movie he is promoting features multiple actors from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, as well as the DCU and other comic book films. And
I bet they're getting paid way more in the Marvel universe than they are from him.
Probably, yeah. Yeah, Dave Bautista probably makes more from a Guardians film than this.
I love Dave Bautista.
Yeah, man. Well, he's in the new Dune.
What was that horror, that zombie movie he was in recently? That was terrible.
No, The Army of the Dead.
That was so bad.
Snyder film.
So bad. But yeah, so what he said, this is why I think I annoyed me, not because I am not this big Marvel fan defender. I mean, I am a fan of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but I'm not. That's not why I'm annoyed. But basically, what he said is that, quote unquote, perhaps the problem is that we're in front of too many Marvel movies that are nothing more than a cut and paste of others. So,
I agree. With a lot of that.
I do not disagree with the comments, but what I do not disagree with, but I guess is that pretty much name me any movie in the last 20 years that hasn't been a cut and paste of something. Like most movies, like the rom-com. Oh, boy and girl meet, they get along. Oh no, he says something, and then now she hates him, but then something happens, they get back together and live happily ever after. I've seen that movie 500 times.
But the thing that hasn't happened is those 500 movies aren't connected to each other. I mean, sure, Drew Barrymore and Adam Sandler made like 3 or 4 movies together, but none of them are linked to one another. There's not a whole universe around it. Whereas Disney has kind of just made the same movie, arguably about 17 times now. It's literally, like Act 1, Act 2, and then there's a big battle at the end featuring a lot of CGI. Sometimes the protagonist, his antagonist, is just like him. Did you know that, Mike? And it's very rare that you get a movie where there isn't a big battle at the end. Like Doctor Strange, it might be a unique movie that ended out of the formula. Also,
well, there was a big battle, but it wasn't the stereotypical lots of fighting. It was very mind fucky kind of battle.
It wasn't one army versus another army.
It was just one man outsmarting another being.
Yeah. But anyway, I digress. Anyway. So I totally hear what he's saying. It's being definitely blown out of proportion, but hey, we're talking about it. So
whatever. I mean, good luck to you, Dennis. But I mean, I guess
he does need his luck because he has remade another movie that, while it has a huge cult fan base within the sci-fi community, the general public does not give a fuck. All right, it happened with Blade Runner 2049, which I heard is like one of the most beautiful movies you may ever see.
I do actually still want to see it. I haven't seen it, but I do want to see that.
Dave Bautista is also in that.
Is he really? Isn't Ryan Gosling in that as well?
He is. Ryan Gosling has a much bigger part than Dave Bautista, but still. It was a financial bomb. Critic wise, don't worry about that. The fans that loved the original Blade Runner or any of the other 5 iterations of Blade Runner, they loved Blade Runner 2049, but the rest of the general public did not give a shit. And the same thing is going to happen with Dune. Have you seen the original Dune?
No.
Okay, well,
although I played the video game.
Oh, interesting.
No, I was going with Doom. Doom,
Oh,
Doom.
Uh-huh. Dune was not a financial and a critical bomb. People who like Kyle MacLachlan, they'll watch it. People who like David Lynch, they'll watch it. People who want to take a night off from Star Wars, they will watch it. I've maybe watched it this many times and have only stayed awake for it this many times.
Okay, for those
fall asleep quick.
For those listening, he said he'd watched it 5 times and finished it twice.
Thank you very much, Mike. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Mm-hmm. The Sci-Fi Channel would try and do a mini series based on it, but no one ever talks about it. It came and went like every other thing on the Sci-Fi Channel before they started spelling their name with Y's. I
hate that.
The new Dune will most likely not be a box office success out here in the United States. It is currently doing its opening run in Europe right now because they don't have HBO Max. So financially, the Europeans are loving it. But once it hits the United States, which was the biggest market next to China, it won't. It's going to go thumb down. Tank.
Us Europeans love a bit of Dave Bautista.
And why not?
Although if you actually spell his name correctly, because obviously his wrestling name was Batista, Batista.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd always am I supposed to pronounce it Bautista? I don't know.
That's probably how it's correctly pronounced, but you know.
So I feel, what is
he knows who you're talking to.
What is he? He's half Filipino,
part Greek.
Part Greek. That's it.
I think there's another thing sprinkled in there, but yeah.
One thing, Greek and Filipinos love interesting surnames.
Okay.
Just saying, look it up. Like Greek people, like the Filipinos, like they're always like 12 letters long. They're incredible. But they're fun to say. So shout out to the Greeks. Before we move on, you may have noticed I'm drinking my quote unquote coffee. It's beer out of my lovely new mug. Enjoy wafflebox.com.
That's a sexy looking mug, Mike. I'm not going to deny
sexy looking mug. Well, you can
not only is the shipping reasonable, but it's quick.
Yeah, the mug comes quick as hell. T-shirts. Make sure you pay attention on the t-shirts because I didn't, and I got slow shipping. But hence why I'm wearing a Cobra Kai t-shirt and not a Waffle Box t-shirt. But
burn on the Waffle Box.
I know
those fuckers.
But if you do want to check it out, go to wafflemerch.com if you do want to get a mug or a t-shirt. But this is how good it's gonna be. You might think maybe people are like, oh my god, I want to buy that mug. But I'm telling you, hey, by all means, buy the mug. It's a nice mug. But I would just hold fire because I don't want you to spend too much. I'd love you to spend money on our stuff, but don't spend too much money. So just hold fire. Maybe another week or two. We've got an super exciting design coming out. So I'm not going to force too much on the shop, but I'm not going to spoil it. But it's got a really cool design coming out soon, designed by a friend of mine. So keep an eye out for that.
Looking forward to seeing that, man.
Okie dokie. So we're moving quickly because this next topic of discussion, I think, is going to be a bulky one. Okay. So obviously, if you've been listening to the show for a while, you know me and Kush have the connection of professional wrestling. He's not a big fan of it anymore, but we still we're connected to the universe through wrestling.
I don't hate it. I'm just not invested in it anymore.
Right. I'm not trying to call you out. I'm not trying to call you out. It's all good.
Long excuse of why.
But so there is for those who are listening or watching who aren't wrestling fans, trust me, stick around for this. It gets wild. So there is a documentary series on Vice TV called The Dark Side of the Ring. Basically, it's now on the 3rd season.
Mm-hmm. So
basically, it chronicles some of the wildest stories, some of the seediest stories, things of like the backstage stuff, not stuff that you see on TV, some of the backstage stories or whatever it might be, some of the stories about the wrestlers themselves, about their horrible histories and things like that. It can get wild and dark. This week's episode was from a story came out in, I believe it was 2002.
May 2002.
Now, I remember this story. This is how old I am and how long I've been arrested. So I remember this story coming out, The Plane Ride from Hell, it's called, which is basically what was supposed to be a 7-hour flight from London to Connecticut ended up being like a 14, 15-hour thing because the flight got delayed due to weather. But I remember this story coming out and hearing some of the stories back in the day. So when I was watching this, I was kind of like, well, this would be interesting to actually hear the stories from the people themselves, but I'm not expecting to hear anything crazy. Boy, was I wrong.
Okay. Yeah, I'm pretty sure when this first came around, when we were following the dirt sheets with just passion and intensity, I'm pretty sure a couple things got left out of that. And I'm pretty sure that once the lawsuit happened, there was a non-disclosure agreement that was signed, which because of that brings up a lot of questions of why are we talking about it, if not now, but again.
Well, as far as I remember, so the one person who brought the lawsuit against WWE, World Wrestling Entertainment, she wasn't in this documentary.
That's right.
Stewardess,
her name was not only admitted but blurred out.
Right. So yeah, you're
there's
probably
a whole
right.
story we haven't even heard about. And so let's break down a little bit of the game footage here, Mike. So there's a plane. The WWE did a series of shows out in Europe, leading to a pay-per-view in London, and they chartered a plane that holds about roughly 50 people, and it comes with an exclusive flight staff. Now, from what I gathered in this, it comes with the actual flight cockpit crew. So that's a pilot, a co-pilot, a navigator, and maybe 2 more people. Let's just say 5 people there, just in the cockpit. Then there's 2 people handling the front of the plane and 2 people handling the back of the plane. Now, as big as this plane is, it's still a limited amount of space. And the section that Vince McMahon is versus all of the rest of the staff, it's literally separated by a curtain. It's not a soundproof curtain. It's not a titanium curtain. No. It's just a curtain, okay? So again, I have lots of questions going into this, but our attention in this story is one flight attendant's recollection of the flight from hell, May 2002, and her experience. And this woman got done wrong. Unfortunately, again, the other stewardess that was working with her doesn't really come up much in this story. She probably just didn't want to do it at all. But she was left out to dry. Not only is she up against 40 wrestlers, 40 drunk, pilled up wrestlers, but the flight staff in the front isn't helping her whatsoever.
No.
Again, like there's a lot of noise being made in this.
The spoiler alert,
deeper into this
towards the end of the flight,
like a fight and a bunch of other stuff here. So
because towards the end of the flight, they did say like where the other flight staff were kind of like, "Whoa, we had no idea any of this was going on." Like bullshit. You knew, and you was like, "Fuck that! I am not getting involved in that shit."
And I don't blame them, but also fuck you bitches.
So, I mean, I think I've got everything. So, the main thing, actually, like, obviously, the big thing that's come out of this documentary and the backlash afterwards and the repercussions are mainly focused on Ric Flair, who everyone knows, even if you're not a wrestling fan, everyone knows the name Ric Flair, and also a person by the name of Tommy Dreamer. Those are the big things. But the couple of things I did want to mention, because just to kind of give an idea of what kind of I'll go over the kind of smaller things, which wild. So main things like there's a man called Kurt Hennig, who's known by fans as Mr. Perfect, and Brock Lesnar. They ended up having a huge fight on the plane while it was in the air.
And they're just horsing around. But by the way, these are two giants over 6'4", and Brock Lesnar is like close to 300 pounds.
Over 300 pounds.
Let's just be generous and say he was on a diet and he's 225.
Right.
All right. This is some heavy fucking weight. Just banging around in an airplane that's just cruising at 30,000 degrees over the Atlantic Ocean
into the emergency exit door.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, I don't get me wrong. I think what they did mention that door is pretty sturdy. There was no way they were going to bash that open. But still,
let's not find out.
If I was on the flight, I would have still a little bit nervous. And then there was another.
It's only in that incident where like the most wrestlers get up and do anything to like break the two apart. And again, those two were just they're literally just horsing around like teenagers. Like they didn't. Of all the people on this flight, in the altercations on this flight, those two actually like each other. They're both Minnesota boys, and so this is a thing they do.
Yeah, it was one was pranking the other, and they was like, let's have a wrestle. One guy who did an amazing job of being so nonchalant, and which is his thing, is Mr. Rob Van Dam, who is very well known for his enjoyment of marijuana and things like that. So and I'm not judging him. It's legal in most states now. It's fine. He's a very chilled out guy. But the way because he was talking about, I can't remember the exact name of the drug, but he was calling it, the thing was called house. It was called H-bombing, where you would like sneak it into someone's drink and they would pretty much just be useless for a long time.
And apparently a couple folks on this flight did get dosed.
Yeah, I think Scott Hall got done, which...
Scott Hall is alleging that Mr. Perfect possibly dosed him.
Possibly. But before we get into that...
He might have just done it himself, too. Like that's it's totally not out of the realm of possibilities.
He just wanted to sleep for the flight.
Yeah.
But so Rob Van Dam said, where he's talking...
You brought up RVD, please.
Where he's explaining what H-bombing is. And he's just basically, hey, we just slip this in someone's drink, and then you can prank them because they're helpless. And then I would admit, I missed it. So it was one that he said about how, some of the boys, wrestlers, would do this to local fans, young ladies, so that they could have their way with them.
Especially young ladies.
Yes. But he said it in such a nonchalant way that I was just kind of like nodded along. Okay, Rob, cool. And then it was like about a minute or two later where I was like, wait, what did he just say?
It had to sink in.
Did he just try to just slip in? No, I'm not saying he didn't say he did it, and I'm not saying he did it, so I'm not trying to make him out to be the bad guy here. Don't get me wrong. But he was just nonchalantly basically said, yeah, people would drug people so they could rape people. Like, what? That's a what?
Yep. It's
he said it so
this is
nonchalantly.
actually the biggest thing I took away from the episode is that Rob Van Dam just admitted that pro wrestlers within the WWF, WWE organization are known for drugging and raping people. And I'm going to say, I'm not going to just keep it to women because people. There's some stories about a couple guys just within the staff that, tried to get a little too aggressive one night. We're not going to get into that, but I see more people being upset about the fact that Tommy Dreamer, you don't have to like his words, but at the end of the day, he's just defending his friend, and he's doing all the math on what he's seen versus what he had heard, and that's why Tommy Dreamer's in trouble right now. But people shouldn't be upset with Tommy Dreamer. They should be upset about this statement that Rob Van Dam did make.
People should be asking, like, wait, who?
Rob Van Dam?
Tell us who did this.
I don't think Rob Van Dam is doing this because he seems like he seems very creeped out by the whole thing. And again, as you mentioned, RVD, his whole thing is he smokes weed, so pills and
I don't think he messes with that.
And hardcore boozing isn't his thing. Like he might have a couple brews with the boys, but like his whole deal is he smokes weed, and that's how he's like kept relatively injury free most of his career.
Yeah, and I mean, I've never met the guy, so I don't want to judge him positively or negatively, but he has been very well documented where at the time, because unfortunately he was married at the time. Unfortunately, now his wife has passed on, I believe through cancer, if I'm correct, I could be wrong.
Sad. But
he was very well documented where he adored her. He was like, she was his world. So again, I'm not, sometimes the ones that, hey, Jesus, I never expected him to do that. So But I would be very, very, very shocked if he was one of these people involved in doing that. But yeah, there should be more of kind of investigation into okay, we need to find out what's going on there and who's been doing the old drugging and raping, because that's not cool.
There's definitely no statute of limitations on this, man, and wrong is wrong, and that shit is not cool. Yeah, and it's gonna make all of your fandoms question what you've been watching and what you've been supporting for the last 10 years, 20 years, even if you've just picked up the last 2 years with AEW. You know, you're gonna question a lot of things coming out of this episode, or you should be, but you shouldn't be getting all upset at Tommy Dreamer. You can be upset at Tommy Dreamer, but you gotta be upset at so many other people as well.
Well, let's get on to Tommy. So to get to Tommy Dreamer, we need to get to Ric Flair.
Let's get to Ric Flair. Yeah.
So Ric Flair, and I'm not don't want to be there's a phrase called the smart fan or smart mark, where basically I've read a lot of things, I've heard a lot of backstage stories, blah 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 blah. I don't want to get into that. But I've heard a lot of Ric Flair stories, and Ric Flair has been very open. He did the 30 to 30 on ESPN. He has been very open about his lifestyle and the kind of person he is. So I've heard many times where he talks about how he would go into like hotel lobbies, hotel bars, wearing completely nothing except for his lavish robes and things like that. So at some point on the flight, he appears completely naked wearing the robe. And it is alleged that at some point he basically, which I'm not trying to make light of this, but when the woman involved was telling the story, I don't know why, but when she prefixed the story by saying, yeah, Ric Flair naked wearing a robe came up for a Coke. It seemed like, okay.
It's a very specific detail. Okay.
But, and so he then tried to be Ric Flair, apparently, allegedly, forced her against the wall and he just wouldn't let her go. And he basically took her hand and put it on his genitalia and basically until eventually, after, if I'm correct of what she said, a couple of minutes, or she and I can understand where she was kind of like, I don't know how long it went on. It seemed to go on for ages, but it could have been, I don't know, which is fair. I can totally appreciate that.
She says the entire experience was only a couple of minutes, but we've totally crossed a line here when we're naked in our robe. And as funny as it probably is, actually, just if it's just at the isolated incident of naked in his robe all the way at the end of the plane away from the galley, that shit's funny. All right, but
amongst your friends who know you, that shit's funny.
This woman is not a part of that world.
She's never met you before. They've met in the hotels, but still,
outside of this
it doesn't mean that's cool.
No, it's all bad.
To which
I have no reason to think that she didn't experience everything that she said she does. It's very specific, and it's wrong. It was wrong 20 years ago. It's wrong 40 years ago. It'll be wrong 20 years from now. Ironically, it'll be a thing in 30 years. But then 50 years from now, it'll be wrong again.
Yeah, it'll come back in cycles. But basically, what Tommy Dreamer got into, so he is
So Tommy Dreamer didn't witness this. He probably saw her go into the galley, or probably saw him go into the galley, and that's all he knows. And now he's just hearing, and he's like, well, that's not a thing. My friend Ric Flair has done a lot of things with a lot of women, but this has never been a thing I've seen him do in all of my experiences with him.
Well, no, that's not exactly what he said.
That's what I got out of it.
Okay.
So please correct me where you heard differently.
So he's a backstage worker. He works in management and things like that, I think, for a company called Impact Wrestling, who has since indefinitely suspended him for his comments on this show. One of the main, basically the gist, I can't remember the exact quote, but there are many videos out. The whole thing is on YouTube if you want to watch it. Search Dark Side of the Ring on YouTube. The whole thing's on there. But basically, he was just saying, yeah, Ric Flair does this. He's funny. The boys like it. It's hilarious, blah, 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 blah. but apparently some people got offended about it.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's like saying, well, if she was really upset, why didn't she press charges and blah, 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 blah.
Okay.
Which,
I got it.
So don't get me wrong. Let's just say Ric Flair did this 100%. Let's just say that again. It's all alleged and things like that.
It's alleged. I think it happened.
I think, but yeah. But like you say, 20 years ago, still not cool. But then I think what made it worse for Tommy was that, okay, this happened 20 years ago. That was not cool. But what you're still in 2021 almost defending that kind of action by saying, oh, what, she got offended by that? What a look like, get over it. Like, you're making light of it. And I think definitely that made a lot of people uncomfortable and a lot of people angry, which I get it. I totally get that.
I think no one is disputing that Ric Flair was naked doing the helicopter. In fact, he came out with tweets earlier this afternoon saying, yeah, I did the helicopter, but that's as far as it went. I think Tommy Dreamer is just guilty of defending his friend here, and he might be wrong.
Well, no, it wasn't, because it wasn't just defending it. It was when he was basically doing the whole, well, if this actually happened, why didn't she do this? So basically, he's an insensitive
he's not
guy
who's also suffered 20 plus concussions in his life.
No, okay. But what I'm saying is, I can understand why people are getting upset with someone in 2021, not only defending, which again, I wasn't there, so I'm not going to say one is right, one is wrong, but to defend that does seem a little insensitive, but then also to almost mock the quote unquote victim, or even suggest that she's lying by saying, hey, maybe, well, if this really happened, well, it's like, it's a bad look. Let's just put it that way. It's like, why would you do that?
It's a bad look because he doesn't know what she experienced in that, but what she experienced after that. And she actually goes into it, and you just sink into your chair when you she's like carrying layers of guilt that she has no reason to carry, but they're there still. Like she is again the victim in this situation here, but there's this, it is so complicated and so over the top, and just like, how do you, there's no textbook definition for how you should react in this. And
no,
it's again, I would also love to hear the other stewardesses experience this, because I bet it doesn't shed any sunshine on this.
No,
I bet it gets only worse. All right.
Yeah.
And then after all this, she still got groped by Scott Hall, her face licked, and her blouse snapped open.
So yeah, he ripped open her chest. Jesus Christ, that sounds horrible. Her top
horror.
To see her, and then he was like, "I'm gonna lick you," and then he licked her, and
he said, "Well, apparently he said way more than that, but I'm gonna lick you is the only thing she was comfortable in repeating."
Right.
That's how bad shit like that got, and this is where I believe 100% of what she said.
And I think Dustin Rhodes, better known to people as Goldust, it was either her or
pathetic story.
The other stewardess, where he was like, "Hey, me and you are gonna fuck," and then he rubbed himself against her, and then he took the tannoy system and tried to sing a love song to his ex-wife, who was also on the plane. So that was, but Jim Ross, who was at the time, for those who don't, he was like the head of talent relations. So basically, he was like the boss-ish, but he's basically in charge of keeping everyone in line. And even it was almost like a sad part of the story where he had to go up to him and was like, just sit your ass down.
One of the worst days in the office for him, and he's not even in the office that day. He was just like, "Oh fuck."
He was the only person, right? I would say, like, when his comments towards the end, where because at the end of it, Kurt Hennig got fired, Scott Hall got fired. I think there was a couple others.
Dustin got fined.
Dustin got fined,
and then Flair got a pass. Now,
but yeah,
he's also like, is it wrong or is it right? Like, you're gonna have to decide that. No, Jen, you know it was wrong.
Well, but I will say, at least with Jim,
He owns up to 98% of it.
He owns up to it.
Taking responsibility.
He doesn't try to put glitter on a pig or lipstick on a pig or anything like that.
Yes, good example.
But he's basically, look, you can judge me, you can say what you want, but this is what I did. But you could tell just by his body language and his tone, I think this genuinely haunts him still. I think he knows that he fucked up. But I
think he's annoyed because he just wanted to go home and the boys fucked up bad, and he's still has to hear about it to this fucking. His opening words are, "If I never have to talk about this fucking day again, it'll be too soon."
Yeah. And I mean, he didn't. To his credit, he didn't, because even though he doesn't work for Vince McMahon anymore, I think he protected Vince McMahon in this. Because I'm almost 99% sure that Jim Ross at least suggested, okay, we need to do something with Ric Flair, and I'm pretty sure Vince McMahon was like, no.
Yeah, at one point, like, why didn't Ric Flair get any repercussions? And he went, well,
he's a made man.
That's a good question.
Yeah,
and then he went into
the
whole made man thing. But.
So yeah, I think he definitely he wasn't happy with that whole situation. But
about protecting McMahon because again, it's literally a little piece of curtain is separating these two parties. So they're hearing everything. Linda McMahon is also on this flight, and we get no details of what they're doing. As far as we know, those two are just asleep with the little eye covers on, and that's before we even leave the tarmac, which was for 7 hours. The entire length of what the flight should have been was still stuck on the tarmac, but they were stuck on the runway and still had to reorder 3 booze carts.
Yeah, so that was another. So what they said about generally whenever they do, because this whole flight is something that gets chartered by sports organizations, so NBA teams, NFL teams. Well, this is the kind of company they
specifically out of Arizona. It was a really weird detail.
Yeah, but so she said normally at most they'll finish a cart of complimentary alcohol.
She said it's never happened before, and it's never happened since that they've finished one. She says, like, normally we're stuck because of weather delay. It's like 20 minutes, an hour tops, and for whatever reason, this day was 7 whole hours. But
they were on their like second cart before they even took off.
And for some reason still had enough booze that when they did take off, they got lucky on that one. Things could have gone bad if they ran out of booze.
They got cut off.
Yeah. Over the
one story that didn't get mentioned on the show, and I'm assuming it's because the main story, this story features Vince McMahon himself, Kurt Angle, and The Undertaker. This didn't get mentioned on the show, but it has been corroborated, and the story has been told by Kurt Angle and The Undertaker themselves. So at some point, Vince McMahon got a little bit of happy himself on wine. Apparently, he drank plenty of wine and decided to see if he could take Kurt Angle.
Oh, so I've also heard this, but I've heard that this is a completely separate flight, or it might even be a thing over other flights, because Vince McMahon's also a frat boy, or at least he was during this time. Now he's a very fragile old man, but during this time, like, yeah, he would love to horse around again, much like Mr. Perfect and Brock Lesnar, where like he would just him and Kurt Angle would like just leg tackle each other in the aisles randomly.
So that was the story. So Vince, for about 4 or 5 hours stretch, they would just stop and then start wrestling again, start wrestling again. Apparently the Undertaker, who was asleep on the flight, got woken up because they brawled into him and woke him up. And then all he saw was Kurt Angle attacking Vince McMahon. And so the Undertaker just got up and put Kurt Angle in a chokehold. And then eventually someone was like, dude, no, they're just fucking around. And he was like, oh, and he let him go and then went back to sleep.
Well, no, so part of this tour, there was 3 house shows, and then they did the UK European exclusive pay-per-view. I want to talk a little bit more about this. Insurrection 2002, but Kurt Angle is nowhere on this card. Neither is Mike Chioda, who has a lot to say in this documentary, which I'm really surprised about. And maybe he was just on the house shows, But Mike Chioda is not on this card either, referee Mike Chioda. But if you want to go over this card, I got it right here in front of me.
Okay, let's do it. Because I remember watching it. Because I'd have to buy these on Sky Box Office. So it was really annoying because I remember because at that time in the UK we would get the WWF pay-per-views for free. Well, free on Sky Sports. So we have to pay for Sky Sports. Right. It's like no extra charge. But then also suddenly having to pay £20 for a basically glorified house show. I remember looking back thinking, why am I doing this? Well, I wasn't doing this. My parents were fucking paying for it, but you know what I mean? Still, let's go for it. Okay, quick, let's go for the card.
So what's crazy is the Insurrection pay-per-views, and I think they only did, if they didn't do 3 of them, they did 4 of them.
Well, they used to do two. They used to do 2 a year. One was Rebellion and one was Insurrection.
And they had nothing to do with the rest of the storyline. They would mix things up a little bit. They would try things out.
They would have some connection, but yeah.
But the United States would not be able to see the event whatsoever until it like showed up at your Blockbuster video 3 months later.
Yeah, I think they're now available on Peacock, if I'm correct.
Probably on the Peacock, on the WWE network and whatnot.
Yeah.
But, so here is the pay-per-view proper. This is not the opening match. This is not anything from the house shows circuit themselves. But Mr. Perfect versus Goldust in a singles match.
Amazing.
RVD defeated Eddie Guerrero for the Intercontinental Championship. Unfortunately, it was a disqualification, so obviously didn't change it. Jacqueline and Trish Stratus defeated Jazz and Molly Holly in a women's tag. X-Pac defeated Bradshaw in a singles. Bradshaw got busted open, as discussed in that.
And that was when Bradshaw was still kind of like, who the fuck? Like
Bradshaw.
Yeah, just Brett. I bet that was a boring match.
He wasn't the financial advisor. Booker T defeated Steven Richards in a hardcore match, and then Crash Hollywood later in the night beat Booker T and get the hardcore title.
The good old 24/7 rule.
7 rule. Thank you. The Hardy Boys defeated the tag team of Brock Lesnar and Sean Stasiak with
wow. Sean Stasiak.
Teamed up with Brock Lesnar.
Sean Stasiak, I will say that I remember vividly. He was not my favorite. Like, he was,
he's a third generation wrestler.
And
they
theme
couldn't do
song
anything with him. Planet Stasiak. That was a gimmick.
Sean Stasiak's theme song slapped. That was one of my favorite entrance theme songs. Now I've remembered it. After we get off this, I'm gonna listen to that shit and I'm gonna enjoy it. It's a great theme song. Not the Planet Stasiak one, no, the Sean Stasiak one, the one before Planet Stasiak.
Well, the Hardy Boys beat that ass.
Of course they did. I bet they pinned Sean Stasiak as well.
Spike Dudley defended the European Championship against William Regal, hometown boy. Stone Cold Steve Austin defeated the Big Show with Ric Flair as a special guest referee. And then the main event was Triple H defeats The Undertaker in a singles match. Biker Taker, FYI.
American Badass.
The American Badass, yes. And then your referees were Chad Patton, Jack Doan, Nick Patrick, Jimmy Corderas, Earl Hebner. Interviews by Terry Reynolds and Lillian Garcia. Howard Finkel was your ring announcer. And then Jim Ross and Jerry the King Lawler were your commentators. So that was Insurrection 2002.
Insurrection. My favorite part of that was always the theme song. They would use the same theme song every year.
Yeah, why not?
But it was, I'm trying to think of the song, but it was a song by Bush. But I can't remember. It was totally a rip-off of that song. Like, obviously, so they didn't want to have to pay the rights for that Bush song. But they just ripped it off. But it was actually a pretty good song. Music was good back in those days in wrestling. I'll give them that. But yeah, very strange day. So Ric Flair has now come out basically since then.
Ric Flair is saying, hey man, I've told you how ugly I get, and this ain't it. And he's standing by that. And
to be fair,
I mean, take it at face value, or you can not believe him. And
I will back him up at least to say yes, he has said horrible things about himself. Like if you watch the 30 for 30 interview with him on ESPN, he does not paint himself in a very nice light. He has been a horrible, horrible person.
And I think we're also dealing with two different audiences here, maybe even three. Like, clearly the audience that didn't see the 30 for 30 is who is upset with the Vice documentary. Because if you're not, you shouldn't be surprised by any of this. And then I think there's maybe a new crowd who, who's only been around for 6 months, maybe even as long as AEW has been around. And they're like, what? I've never heard about this. Ric Flair exposes himself? But he cried when his daughter won the title at WrestleMania. I was there. I cried with him. That's not the Ric Flair I know. No, Ric Flair's a dirty ass old man, and that was before he was a senior citizen. Okay,
dirty old man.
I'm not condoning any of this, but I'm not surprised by any of it either. And I don't think it's fair to be exclusively mad at Tommy Dreamer. I think you should be mad at a bunch of people. I think Vince, if you're going to be mad at Tommy Dreamer, go all in. Be mad at Vince McMahon. Be mad at Linda McMahon. Be mad at JR for not doing more. Be mad at Scott Hall. Be mad at Goldust for spitting in his chewing tobacco into the little compartment. He's got cups all. They were three bar carts.
So many cups.
There's a fucking cup you can. There you go. All right. When it fills up because you've been on the Termex 7 hours, flush that thing down the toilet. You're a fucking cocksucker, Dustin Reynolds. Ugh. Anyway, be mad at so many other more people about this, man. But your favorite pro wrestler's favorite pro wrestler is Ric Flair, dick out or not. And sometimes because he shows his dick, and his dick probably looks funny.
But also, I did like I guess the light at the end of the tunnel was when I believe it was Jim Ross was summarizing basically where he has said that the modern day wrestlers, this current generation generally, have kind of caught wind of these stories and things like that. And we're pretty much, I mean, I'm not going to say everyone, but most of them are kind of like, yeah, we're not going to be like that.
Well, the guys who did try to be like Ric Flair would end up getting fired because the wellness they would fail the wellness policy. I mean, for every 20 guys that got fired because of the wellness policy, there was a Randy Orton, and there was a Randy Orton incident, and you should also be mad.
There was several Randy Orton incidents.
He's
another quote unquote made man and didn't get fired.
And Charlie Haas and John Cena, who just stayed in their hotel room and just played Xbox. And probably played SmackDown versus Raw on their Xbox. Like, yo, man, I'm gonna fucking super kick you this time, bro.
Well, so the main man right now, the current WWE champion, Big E. Him and his buddies Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston, they have their own YouTube channel. They're
all big gamers,
big health
aficionados.
Like some of the old school wrestlers, obviously, now all they do is play video games. You know what? If my favorite wrestler, all he does in his free time is play video games, I'd much rather that than drugging and raping people. Call me weird, but that's what I prefer.
No, I'm with you on that one. Yeah, drugging and raping people, not cool.
No,
not cool. That's.
But I mean, okay. If you haven't seen, in summary, if you haven't seen this, check it out. It's on Vice TV. You can see it on demand, or as of recording this, it's still available on their YouTube page. To search Dark Side of the Ring.
I think it lives on the Vice channel in perpetuity, or as long as Vice lives. But yeah, this woman, Heidi Doyle, she got the runaround from everybody. Again, like her own staff didn't back her up. And then once they finally did land, they were like, yeah, so you got to clean all this shit up. And she was like, once she found like the first syringe, I applaud her. She's like, fuck all you. I'm going to my hotel room. And she should have had no reason to clean that fucking biohazard whatsoever, especially when, like, again, you got Dustin Reynolds chewing tobacco just dripping out of the map compartment. You've got syringes all over the place, some blood. Again, Bradshaw was already bleeding and then got punched by Michael P.S. Hayes. We didn't even talk about the Michael P.S. Hayes stuff, which is maybe the funniest part of this whole thing.
I guess that's the lightest part of it, where he got his ponytail cut off while he was asleep.
So he apparently, it's unclear to me if, again, Mr. Perfect drugged him or if he just drugged himself. but because the phrasing is like, oh, Hayes H-bombed. That's I want to say that was the phrase they used, but at some point Michael P.S. Hayes got up in a stupor, in a drugged, drunken, dickhead stupor, punched Bradshaw in the head, who's just minding his own business, trying to stop bleeding. Bradshaw gets up, slaps him, not even punches him, slaps him and knocks him out. And then X-Pac comes in and cuts off his ponytail. And because Michael P.S. Hayes is such a fucking asshole, no one stops this. Vince McMahon doesn't stop this. Jim Ross doesn't stop this. Linda McMahon is probably laughing her ass off, but everyone is cheering this. And then when he finds out in the morning, he's just like, what did I miss?
And then they put it in a Ziploc bag and stuck it to the locker room door. That's good.
Story.
That's good, wholesome fun. Good, wholesome pranking.
Mm-hmm.
Let's lay off the sexual harassment and shit.
Heidi Doyle did sue. She sued with the anonymous other stewardess as well.
She got a big payment.
Get a settlement out of this. There had to be an NDA. I can't imagine why it would have an expiration clause, because one of them was clearly the focus of this. But then I hope they also both sued SportsJet, which was the company.
Because they basically, when she complained to them, they were basically like, yeah, well, they're quite a high profile client, so maybe you should shut up about this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, screw you.
And again, this is also, while it is a private organization, it has come out within the last decade that flight staff, that is not the cockpit crew, they don't get paid until we go into the air. So she still had to do her fucking job for 7 hours.
Not getting paid.
Probably didn't get paid for it. I'm just speculating.
Yeah, they didn't. They probably didn't get overtime for that.
But even if she did get paid for it, it wasn't enough.
No,
it wasn't enough. This poor woman definitely went through hell. A lot of things are very questionable.
Like,
if you want to be mad at everything, but you might even have to be mad at the business.
Even if you don't, if you take like what she said, and I'm not saying you should, but even if you did take what she said with a pinch of salt and say, oh, I'm sure she's embellished some stuff to make it sound worse and blah, 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 blah. Even if you took that stance, she still did not have a fun flight and did not deserve any of that.
I think she probably has a lawsuit before they even went into the air. I bet she has a lawsuit before Ric Flair's dick even comes out. I don't think there would be any difference in the settlement because there was a penis involved. I don't know anything about law. I could be totally out of line, out of pocket, but I think this woman was completely wrong before they even left London.
But it also, before wrapping up, even her husband sounds like a piece of shit. Because when she went home and told him, and he was like, "Well, what did you do? Why did you deserve to get that?" It was like, it was a whole very dirty situation, very yucky.
Yeah, very yucky indeed. I don't know what her husband said. I know there was examples of what people said to her. I would hope that her husband didn't say that. But I also, again, there's no manual for this, man. There's no, like, you just want answers and the questions come out the way they come out. There's no time really to be sensitive about it. When the state that your wife might have been molested at her job comes into play, you know, and I hope no one listening to this ever has to find out. And there we go, man. Again, I think there's a lot of misdirected anger at this incident that happened almost 20 years ago. But if you want to be angry about it, okay, let's be angry about it. But there's a proper way to be about it, and there's definitely a whole chain of command before you even get to Tommy Dreamer. That's my argument there.
Yeah. Again, I'm not saying Tommy Dreamer is the biggest villain from this story, but I think the problem with Tommy Dreamer is that, again, age or time doesn't change what they did. But I think a lot of people.
Tommy Dreamer didn't do anything.
No. But what I'm saying is, I think the main reaction is that holy shit, 20 years ago, these people were a piece of shit. But today, you're trying to stick up for them. That's fucked up. Like, you know what I mean? I could. So again, I'm not saying he should be the biggest villain, but I can understand why people are definitely upset with him.
He's sticking up for his friends who he probably knows better than the people that are angry right now. So, and he's probably never ever seen Ric Flair take a woman's hand.
But no, he's not defending. He's not saying this. He is basically saying, yeah, this probably happened, and what, she got offended by it? What the hell? That, if he was saying, no, I know him, he wouldn't have done that, blah, 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 blah. Now, obviously, because what he insinuated was that he has never seen, never heard, and he would not believe that he would like sexually assault.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I guess forcing their hand, but it's still, I don't know. It was just a very awkward, horrible thing to watch. I was very uncomfortable. But yeah, check it out if you wish. But if
where do you think your fandom with pro wrestling goes after this, Mike? Because again, this is not a new story, but this is probably still going on, dude. With your favorite pro wrestlers today, not all of them. Probably not the New Day. Probably not your John Cena's. But yeah, there's some questionable dudes in this business, and they're at all the levels.
Well, when it comes to that, I think I've always tried to distinguish between the art and the artist. So yes, they're probably a piece of shit, but it's like for example, if I'm trying to give an example of but okay, yeah, he's probably a piece of shit, but this wrestling match is really good, so I'm not gonna, I still enjoy this, blah, blah, blah. There are examples where, I mean, this is going way off on a tangent, but there are obviously parts where I draw a line, like, for example, like Chris Benoit. Even though I was a huge Chris Benoit fan, ever since it came out that obviously he murdered his wife and his son, I just haven't been able to watch anything that he's been involved. I haven't been able to go back and watch. I just can't feel comfortable. And not even just wrestling related. It's just going way off a tangent, but have you ever heard of the band Brand New?
I don't believe so.
Okay, so it's Brand New. So they're one of my favorite bands, and it was really heartbreaking almost because one of their songs, it was called Guernica. And so basically, Guernica is named after a Picasso painting, and the whole premise of the song was basically while he was touring, he found out that one of his family members, I believe his grandfather, but I can't remember exactly. So he was like talking about the struggles of being so far away from his loved one who's very sick, and he wishes he could be there, and he wishes he could shrink down and kill what's killing him. Like it's very like emotional. Blah, blah, blah. And I related that to my grandfather who passed away. And it was kind of like this song connected me in a weird way to my grandfather, blah, blah, blah. So I love this song. It's this very nice song to listen to. But then it would then come out that guy would be coercing, shall we say, and communicating with underage young ladies and being a fucking dirty pervert bastard. And it's like, oh, okay, now you fucking ruined. And no, not for me, I'm the victim by any means, but I'm saying like, oh, you've ruined that fucking. I can't listen to that anymore. I can't listen to you anymore. Okay, so there are lines that I draw, but yeah, I can't say, maybe I'm in the wrong, but I can't say I'm never gonna watch an old Ric Flair match again and blah blah blah. But yeah, I'm not gonna trust him. I'm not gonna, you know what I mean?
Well, you shouldn't be trusting. He told you that though in the 30 for 30.
Yeah, so it is, yeah, but yeah,
it's a very complicated situation.
Very,
yeah. Again, if you want to be mad about it, it's okay to be mad about this thing that did happen almost 20 years ago. But
what
you got to redirect.
Why is it now?
You got to redirect that negativity, man. Well, again,
these stories were available. Like this isn't, like I said, I knew about. I mean, obviously not to the detail that they came out with in this documentary, but it was out there. So it's kind of like that's one thing that frustrates me is that when people get outraged, it's like, why wasn't this should have been dealt with? Why wasn't more done?
Because life isn't fair. Because the people that are wronged by this don't know what action to take. Again, this woman was very confused about everything that happened. Like, again, she was made to feel guilty in a situation where she did no wrong. You know, all she's trying to do is her job. So it's one of the most complicated situations. And again, now that there is a 2-decade gap in between when it happened and when this new audience has been exposed to it, and including us, because we didn't know all the details going into it, feelings get brought up, and it's at some point you need to know where you stand. Are you going to continue to watch WWE programming because you're supporting this still? If you are, like, this isn't, I'm telling you, this is still happening to this day. They can do everything they want to try and curb this behavior, but it's pro wrestlers and performers, they're not normal people, man, and they are not the heroes that they are always led to made you believe. Do you understand? Your heroes are not always good guys, and sometimes your villains are just hanging out. And if you want to be mad, there are people to be mad at about this. And I think Tommy Dreamer is one of the only people who's put more money in these pro wrestlers' pockets than you and I and 5 other people combined. You know what I'm saying? No, that's okay. It's a complicated situation, man. This woman was absolutely done wrong. There's possibly no way to make it up to her. Ric Flair is an old ass man who might live longer than both of us. I don't know.
Oh yeah, he's like Keith Richards. He's never gonna die.
But you gotta decide what your level of support is going to be going on from this, and you need to curb your anger, or at least channel it properly.
Okay, let's wrap this because we've been almost an hour on this.
I think we can talk longer about this.
We could,
honestly.
But I've got to edit this still, so let's wrap this up. Maybe we could do some other follow up on this. But anyway, the point is where I think, in summary, the whole Tommy Dreamer situation. I think, even if we take away your emotional situation, I can understand that from a business standpoint for Impact Wrestling, in that, this is going to be a bad look for you. It's going to be a bad look for us. So peace out.
Have they fired him yet?
No, as of recording, it's indefinite suspension. So I'm sure he'll be back at some point. But the rumors were as well, AEW, All Elite Wrestling, was about to bring in Ric Flair to be his son-in-law's manager. I haven't heard anything, but I will be shocked if that happens. I'm sure that's going to be a case of like, let's let this lay low a little bit. Let's let the smoke clear on this one.
Is the NWA is Billy Corbin from Smashing Pumpkins? Has he said anything about this yet?
Not that I've seen, but yeah, they just basically based the whole pay-per-view around his appearance recently.
Because there was a whole thing where Ric Flair cut a promo.
NWA 75.
All right, cool.
75th anniversary, yeah. But yeah, okay. So we're going to move on, but we could talk about this for hours. Please feel free, if you haven't seen this, check this out. Dark Side of the Ring, Plane Ride from Hell on Vice TV.
It's an interesting show. It's a lot like VH1's behind the music. Yeah. There's a lot of drugs.
There's a lot of episodes.
It's also dark. It's called The Dark Side of the Ring. So, folks, it gets dark. Don't be surprised by that.
Okay, yeah. So that's that. And let's move on.
Yeah. Respect people's boundaries. Don't flash your dick. Don't make women touch your dick. And women, if a man invites you to his hotel room, this isn't even part of the story, but I'm just going to throw this out there. Don't go to his hotel room. All right, he's going to try and fuck you. All right, and that's just based on, I've been watching FX's American Crime Story, the impeachment of Bill Clinton. Right? Don't go to his hotel room. He's gonna try and fuck you. If he's like, come
with a cigar.
Yeah. Well, the cigar stuff happened in the Oval Office. This is a whole other different thing, man. Like, if a man says, "Hey, come to my hotel room alone," don't go to his hotel room unless you want to fuck him. All right, I'm just throwing that out there.
It's good. It's good lesson.
Your daddy never told you that. I'm telling. Kush Hayes is telling you that. Dramatic.
And breathe. Okay, now let's move on. Let's finish the show as we always do with Kush's movie review. It's where he reviews a movie. What have we got coming up this week, Kush? What's on the billboards this week? Whose name is in the lights?
Well, this weekend, man, we were blessed to have like a plethora of films that were all very interesting. So many that I can only mention 3 now. And I wanted to see a film called Blue Bayou about a Korean immigrant. I don't know what the proper term is, but a man who was not born in America of Korean descent, who has an American family, is getting deported back to Korea. That's supposed to be pretty fucking fantastic from what I heard. And then there was,
I mean, if you want to help
I mentioned
out,
at the top of the show,
I refer to myself as an immigrant. I immigrated, so maybe that helps.
Well, I should introduce you to my ex-girlfriend then. Then there was the show, the movie that I mentioned. Shut up, Mike.
What?
Then there's the movie that I mentioned at the top of the show called The Eyes of Tammy Faye, and that thing was fantastic. But then there's Cop Shop, and it's Joe Carnahan who's the director. You know him from movies such as the A-Team movie, Smoking Aces, Liam Neeson versus Wolves in the Gray. Those are the movies he's directed. You know him the best for that. And we got this movie starring Frank Grillo, Gerard Butler, and newcomer Alexis Louder. This is pretty much a tribute to the 70s. It's an action film about a con artist who is being tracked down by multiple hitmen and goes out of his way to get arrested by Nevada state troopers. Alexis Louder is the state trooper. And while in jail, Gerard Butler also gets arrested on a DWI. And he turns out he's a hitman. And despite the fact that he is locked up in a cell just across from our man, Frank Grillo, he knows he's going to murder him painfully. And the story goes on from there.
If you're going to do it right.
For sure. Cop Shop is a lot of fun. It's a hard rated R. It's an hour and 47 minutes of a good time. I didn't feel any of the length of the film. I wouldn't recommend cutting out anything whatsoever. It's a pretty good time, man. I would recommend seeing this in a theater, but it's going to be on Netflix within 60 days, guaranteed.
Fantastic.
Yeah. It's not a complicated review, man. It's very action heavy.
So who's the main? So who's the good guy?
Alexis Louder is.
Who's the bad guy?
Gerard Butler and Frank Grillo.
Where's Batista?
Not in this movie.
Wait, why did I think you said Batista was in this movie?
Because he's in Dune and Blade
because he's in Dune.
Yeah,
okay, I got confused. I was okay. So, good versus evil. Good action. What kind of movie are we talking about? Is it thriller?
We're talking about action. We're talking about cat and mouse games. We're talking about just blowing shit up inside a little police precinct. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of unique characters in this. Frank Grillo has a man bun, which is hilarious.
Love a good man bun.
Made fun of. And then Alexis Louder steals this movie by a lot. She's not been in a lot. Prior to this, she's been in The Tomorrow War on Amazon. That was that thing with Chris Pratt. Did you see that or not?
I haven't really seen anything on Amazon Prime.
Don't worry about it. She's in that. If you've seen it, you know who she is. She was also in the HBO series The Watchmen. Now, despite the fact that she was in half the series, I don't know who she was in that. So this is a great excuse to go back and watch The Watchmen, which I do own on iTunes. But I'm giving this movie 4 out of 5 blueberries. I enjoyed this quite a bit. I doubt there's going to be a sequel to it, but it was a very good time. Fun soundtrack, fun characters, fun action, fun. Mike Fish. I absolutely recommend everybody go see this, even if it isn't in a theater.
Fun.
Lots of fun.
Good stuff. I mean, Gerard Butler, he's one of those actors that he's very understated, that you never really hear anyone going, oh my God, Gerard Butler, amazing actor, blah, 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 blah. But I can't think, I mean, I haven't seen all of his movies, but I can't think of anything I've seen him in that's been horrible. He seems like a solid guy, a solid actor to have in your movie. I'm always
got a sordid past as well, where he assaulted a bellboy with a cell phone. Okay,
well, that's whatever. I mean, we've all wanted to do that at some point.
Well, I used to work in a hotel, so that's rude. But he's fine in this, or fine is not the right word. But
well, it depends what kind of cell phone it was.
It was probably a flip phone. I don't know. The word on the street is it shattered when it hit the hotel staffman's face.
Well, yeah, I mean, if we look at talking like a Nokia 3310, that could knock you out.
If it wasn't an LG, it was probably the Nokia. Yeah.
I mean, some of the iPhones now, they're so smooth. Like,
well, there's never been an iPhone flip phone. Not yet, at least. Not yet. Frank Grillo, you know him as the bad guy in Captain America: The Winter Soldier and in Civil War. He's also been in The Purge Part 2 and Part 3. He does a lot of little stuff, but he's always good in it. Again, Alexis Louder, she's fantastic in this. She does a lot of stunts. She does a lot of intense acting. She should be booked in as many action films as you can get her. She'll be definitely competition for Charlize Theron. She might even be a Dora Milaje in a future Marvel film. Just throwing that out there.
Is that a spoiler or a prediction?
Prediction.
Well, you heard it here first on Wafflebox. But yeah, Frank Grillo is another one. Solid guy in movies and things like that. Very sounds like something I want to check out.
I didn't see The Grey, but this might be the most complicated character I've seen him play. He's really good in it. He's fun. It's a different character. He normally plays a physical role, as you'll see in the Marvel films that I mentioned earlier.
Goddamn, cut and paste.
He's stuck in a prison cell for most of the film, and he just when he needs to be desperate, he's desperate. When he needs to be intense, he's intense. When he's boisterous, he boisters. And then when he gets out of the cell, he's action. It's a good mix. I recommend everybody check this out, even if it's not in theaters, but go support your local movies in the theater. You can still wear a mask and enjoy your movie. I do it all the time.
Cop Shop. Check it out. Oh, geez, I thought you was talking to me and that we realized you muted yourself. Okay. Beautiful stuff. 4 out of 5 blueberries for the Cop Shop. Make sure you check it out, boys and girls. So coming up this week, that pretty much wraps up another wonderful episode. Another wonderfully depressing episode of Waffle Box. What we got? What we got coming up? What can the boys and girls look forward to on the Boss Network? Kush.
We're going to talk with Janelle Smith this Friday on the Microdose, and we're going to go over the Iron Dragon Action Fest winners. I know, Mike, you pointed it out a couple of days ago that
we've done it for 2 years now.
For like half a year, 2 years even. Okay. Well, we're going to get to the winners this weekend, I hope.
Thank God.
It's definitely been one of the more complicated things I've been a part of, apparently. Otherwise, check September 29th, check out Sweet Science Cinema, episode number 5. Me and Pro Wrestling Hall of Famer Jameel Hemphill. We're going to talk about Denzel Washington in the Hurricane.
That it?
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, you normally list off about 9 different things.
It's been
quiet week.
It's been a quiet week, thankfully. I don't even know what we're going to review next week. Dear Evan Hansen comes out, but I'm not much of a musical guy, so we won't be seeing that.
Good. Me neither. I'm sure we'll find something, as we always do. But yeah, make sure you check us all out. I am Mr. Mike Fish on Twitter, Instagram. He is Kush_Hayes, just on Twitter, I believe. You're not on the gram, Kush. You're not on the gram.
On the gram, if you want to talk to me, at Kush and Kai, and on Facebook at Kushford Hayes.
Oh, you're giving out your Facebook information. Bold. Bold. I'm not giving any Facebook information. But if you want to get all the links, go to enjoywafflebox.com. You can, so if you're watching this, you can also listen to this if you prefer not to see our faces and not to ruin your day. You can do that. Go to enjoywafflebox.com, find all the audio links. If you are listening to this and you actually want to go, oh, what do these guys look like? I kind of want to know what these
I gotta
guys
say,
look
if you like the color red, this jersey is popping in HD. So
we're all both wearing red. I'm wearing Cobra Kai. He's wearing 49ers. Not that NFL is important right now until the Giants actually win a game, which hopefully they'll win this week. They're playing the Falcons, who suck, but we suck. So hopefully it's going to be the battle of who sucks less. But yeah, check us all out. Wafflebox, enjoywafflebox.com. Make sure you subscribe wherever you're watching or listening to this. Tell your friends, tell your family, get the word out. But yeah, until next time, make sure to look after yourself or take care of yourself and each other.